In the middle of a packed White House press conference, President Donald Trump pointed straight at Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and sneered, thinking he was about to destroy her. But in one calm, devastating sentence, Crockett flipped the entire room upside down and dropped the ultimate bombshell, exposing a secret so explosive that Trump's own family lies were suddenly laid bare for the whole world to see. The East Room of the White House was packed tighter than usual on that Wednesday afternoon. This wasn't just another ordinary press conference. This was a rare joint appearance called by the White House, officially to discuss bipartisan cooperation on border security. For weeks, the feud between President Donald Trump and Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett had been heating up on television and social media. Sharp words had been traded back and forth, and today, for the first time, they were standing in the same room. As the clock hit exactly 2 p.m., the side door opened. President Trump walked in with his familiar, confident stride, jaw set, eyes scanning the crowd like he owned the place. The room quieted instantly. But instead of starting with the scheduled topic, Trump stepped straight up to the podium, looked directly at Congresswoman Crockett, and didn't even wait for the first question. Then he leaned in and let it rip. "You are a low-class liar with no real family values," Trump said, his voice booming through the microphones. "Just jealous because you've got nothing but hot air." He didn't stop there. He kept hammering, calling her all talk with no substance, the kind of attack he'd used on plenty of people before. The crowd gasped. Cameras flashed like crazy. Some reporters leaned forward. Others whispered fast into their phones, trying to catch every word. Trump had that smirk on his face, the one that said he figured this was already over. He'd done this dance 100 times. Hit hard and personal, watch the other person fold or fire back messy. He expected Crockett to get rattled, maybe stumble over her words, or look small in front of all those lenses. The whole room was watching, waiting for the fireworks. But Crockett didn't move. She stood there straight, microphone in hand, her face calm, like she was listening to the weather report. No flinch, no angry glare. Just steady eyes looking right back at him. She knew shouting back would just play into his game, make it all noise and no point. Instead, she let his words hang there, heavy in the room. The longer she stayed quiet and composed, the more his loud attack started to feel off balance. Trump kept going, thinking her silence meant weakness. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Everyone sees it," he added, voice rising like he could force her to break just by getting louder. But Crockett's pulse stayed even. She wasn't panicking. She was waiting for the right second to flip the whole script. Then Crockett lifted the microphone a little closer and spoke in a calm, clear tone that cut through the tension like a knife. "Mr. President," she said, looking straight at him, "before you judge my family, have you explained why Barron's birth certificate lists Ivanka as the mother?" The room went dead silent. For a full second, nobody speaks. Then the words hit like a thunderclap. Reporters' heads snapped up. Phones started lighting up everywhere. Trump's smirk froze on his face, then vanished completely. His eyes widened for just a moment before his face turned red. "That's nonsense! Lies!" he barked, slamming his hand on the podium. "Barron is Melania's son. End of story." His voice cracked with anger as he tried to talk over her. "Turn off her mic. Cut her off right now." Security staff near the stage looked confused, hesitating. Trump pointed aggressively toward the control booth. "I said cut the microphone. This is a hoax and everybody knows it." But Crockett didn't back down. She kept her grip steady and her voice even. She didn't shout back. She just waited a beat, letting his outburst fill the room so everyone could hear how frantic it sounded compared to her calm delivery. The contrast was brutal. Before Trump could yell again, something exploded across the internet and the big screens in the press room at the same time. An anonymous source dropped high-quality scans of Barron Trump's birth certificate right into the live feed. The document flashed up clearly on multiple monitors. Mother, Ivanka Marie Trump. The father's name was listed as Donald J. Trump. The birth date matched Barron's exactly. Every seal, every signature, every line looked official. Gasps ripped through the crowd. Reporters jumped out of their seats. "What the hell?" someone shouted. Phones were yanked out, fingers flying across screens as the image spread like wildfire. The birth record was crisp, detailed, and impossible to ignore. It wasn't some blurry photo. It looked real, official, and damning. Trump's face went from red to pale in seconds. He stared at the screens, then back at Crockett. "This is fake, a crude forgery," he shouted, but his voice had lost its earlier power. It sounded defensive now, almost desperate. He tried to wave it off, pointing at the screens. "My enemies did this. Fake news. Total hoax." The room was in chaos. Journalists were yelling questions at once. Cameras swung wildly between Trump's furious face and the document glowing on every screen. Some people in the back stood up to get a better look. The energy had completely flipped. Then Crockett nodded toward the side of the stage. A tall, serious-looking man in a dark suit stepped forward. An independent document expert she had lined up in advance. He didn't waste time with fancy talk. He held up a tablet and started breaking it down right there. Live. Looking at the paper stock, the ink composition, and the official seals, he said in a steady voice, everything matches records from that exact time period in New York. No signs of digital alteration. The aging patterns on the paper are consistent with documents stored for over a decade. This is not a crude fake. Reporters scribbled furiously. A few whistled low. The expert pointed out tiny details. The way the seal was pressed, the specific shade of blue ink used back then, even the microprinting that only real government forms had. Every point landed like another nail in the coffin. The room buzzed louder with each sentence. Trump wasn't having it. His face twisted with rage. He jabbed a finger toward the security team near the doors. "Get that man out of here," he shouted. "This is a setup. I want security to remove these liars right now." Two agents started moving toward the expert, but Crockett stepped forward quickly, blocking their path with her body. She looked straight at Trump, her voice still calm but sharp as steel. "Mr. President, you wanted to talk about family values. Now you're calling in security because you don't like the evidence. Let the man finish. Or are you scared of what comes next?" The room went quiet again. Trump glared at her, breathing hard. For the first time, he looked cornered. He lowered his hand, but his eyes burned with fury. "This is ridiculous," and he growled. "Barron is my son with Melania. Everybody knows that. You're just a desperate politician trying to smear my family." Crockett didn't blink. She kept her eyes locked on his. "Then prove it. Let the facts speak instead of yelling over them." Before Trump could fire back, another bombshell hit. A short video popped up on the screens, a sworn statement recorded earlier that day. The woman in the video looked nervous but determined. She identified herself as a former hospital staff member who had worked in the records department during the time Barron was born. "I personally handled the original filing," she said clearly into the camera. "The mother listed on the certificate was Ivanka Trump. I remember because it was unusual and there were instructions to keep it quiet. I signed the affidavit under penalty of perjury. Here's my badge number and the case reference." The video ended with her signature and timestamp visible. The press room exploded. Reporters shouted questions over each other. "Is this real? Can we confirm her identity?" Phones lit up again as the clip spread instantly across the internet. Some people in the back stood up, trying to get a better view of the screens. Trump slammed both hands on the podium. "Fake! All of it! This woman is lying for money!" But his voice was cracking now. The confidence from 10 minutes ago was gone. He looked rattled, sweat visible on his forehead under the bright lights. Crockett stood tall, letting the new evidence sink in. She didn't smile or gloat. She simply spoke again, her tone steady and direct. "You attacked my family. I just showed you yours. The American people deserve the truth, not more shouting." The room was on fire. Cameras zoomed in on Trump's stunned face, then swung back to Crockett. Then, 3 more experts walked onto the stage. An independent forensic panel Crockett had arranged ahead of time. They set up laptops and a large monitor right next to Trump's podium. The lead expert, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s, didn't waste a second. "We've examined the birth certificate under magnification, UV light, and digital forensics," she said, her voice steady and professional. "The paper, ink, and embossed seals are all consistent with official New York vital records from that year. There is no evidence of forgery, Photoshop, or digital manipulation. This document is authentic." Murmurs turned into loud chatter. Reporters leaned forward in their seats. One expert zoomed in on the screen, showing side-by-side comparisons with known real documents from the same hospital. Every detail matched. The panel nodded in agreement. "We stand by our findings," the lead expert added. "This is not a fake." Trump's face twisted. He gripped the sides of the podium so hard his knuckles turned white. "This is a witch hunt," he yelled. "These so-called experts are paid liars. Get them off my stage." Before the security team could move again, Crockett stepped right up beside the experts. She held up a thick folder and spoke directly into the microphones, her voice calm but cutting. "Mr. President, if you're so sure it's fake, then explain this." Right then, a second layer of evidence dropped live on the big screens. It was an internal hospital admission record from the exact same date. The name listed under Mother was clearly Ivanka Marie Trump. Next to it appeared redacted but traceable financial records showing large payments routed through a Trump family shell company right after the birth. Payments marked as medical confidentiality services. Crockett pointed at the screen and walked everyone through the chain of custody. These records came directly from a protected hospital archive. We have the original timestamps, the transfer logs, and 3 separate verifications. They weren't leaked by hackers. They were obtained legally and handed over because someone inside couldn't keep quiet anymore. The press room went wild. Flashbulbs popped nonstop. Reporters shouted questions at Trump. "Sir, can you explain the payments?" "Why does the admission record list Ivanka?" Trump completely lost it. His face turned deep red, veins bulging in his neck. He started yelling over everyone, banging his fist on the podium so hard the microphone shook. "This is treason, fake documents, deep state garbage," he screamed. "I'll have every one of you investigated. Shut this down now." His meltdown was live on every network. Sweat poured down his face. He pointed wildly at Crockett, then at the experts, his voice cracking with rage. "You're all disgusting. This is a total hoax." Crockett didn't raise her voice. She waited for a tiny break in his shouting, then hit him with the timeline contradiction right there on stage. "Mr. President, you tweeted on this exact date that Melania was resting comfortably after giving birth. But these hospital records show Ivanka was the one admitted and discharged that day. How do you explain that? The dates don't lie. The money trail doesn't lie. Your own words don't lie." The room erupted. Some reporters stood up. Others clapped involuntarily before catching themselves. Trump looked like he'd been slapped. For a few long seconds, he just stared at the screens, mouth open, no quick comeback ready. His eyes darted around the room as if searching for an escape. Crockett stood firm, eyes locked on him. "You came after my family in public. Now America is seeing yours. The truth is coming out, whether you like it or not." Trump tried to speak again, but his words came out jumbled and furious. Then Crockett raised her hand for quiet. Another feed lit up the screens. A second sworn affidavit, this one from a longtime insider who had worked closely with the Trump family for years. The man, face blurred for safety but voice clear and steady, looked straight into the camera. "I was present during multiple family discussions in 2016, he said. There were ongoing arguments about how to handle Barron's public image. Ivanka was referred to as the biological mother on several private occasions. The official story about Melania was created later for appearance. I signed this affidavit under oath because the lies have gone on long enough. The room reacted instantly. Gasps and shocked whispers spread like fire. Reporters scribbled notes so fast their pens scratched loud against paper. Crockett turned to Trump, her voice still calm, but now carrying real steel. Mr. President, your own longtime associate just confirmed the family inconsistencies under penalty of perjury. You attacked me for not having family values. So tell the American people, why has your family been hiding the truth about Barron's mother all these years? Trump's eyes were wild. He shook his head violently and slammed the podium again. That man is a disgruntled employee. He's lying for attention. None of this is true. Before he could keep ranting, a new set of documents dropped hard on the big screens. It was an internal family memo dated shortly after Barron's birth. The memo, marked eyes only, clearly stated, maintain public narrative, Melania as mother. Ivanka, to limit to public interaction with child for first 18 months. Right below it appeared a scanned medical note from the same period that listed post-delivery complications for Ivanka and recommended restricted physical activity. The evidence hit like a second bomb. The crowd exploded with noise. "Holy shit!" one reporter yelled from the back. Cameras swung wildly between the documents and Trump's face. Trump stared at the screens, his mouth opening and closing. For a moment, he looked completely lost. Then, in his panic, he slipped. Melania wasn't even in the country that week. That's why we had to. He caught himself mid-sentence, but it was too late. The words had already come out. The entire press room went dead silent for half a second, then erupted in a roar. Reporters jumped to their feet. Questions flew from every direction. "Sir, what did you just say? Was Melania out of the country? Can you explain that slip, Mr. President?" Crockett seized the moment. She stepped closer to the podium, microphone raised, and looked Trump dead in the eyes. "You just admitted Melania wasn't even here when Barron was born. The memo, the medical notes, the insider testimony, it all lines up. Stop hiding behind insults and answer the question right now in front of these cameras. Who is Barron's biological mother according to your own family records?" Trump was breathing heavy, sweat dripping down his temples. He tried to wave her off, pointing aggressively. "I don't have to answer your fake questions. This is all rigged." But Crockett wouldn't let go. She kept the mic pointed toward him and spoke louder, forcing the confrontation. "The American people are listening, Mr. President. You started this by attacking my family. Now finish it. Tell the truth. Was Ivanka listed as the mother because she is the biological mother?" The room was pure bedlam. Reporters were shouting, cameras flashing nonstop, some people in the audience standing on chairs to see better. Trump looked trapped under the bright lights, his usual confident bluster cracking wide open. Every denial he tried to throw out sounded weaker than the last. Crockett stood at the center of the storm, the entire press room hanging on her every move. She looked straight into the cameras, then turned her gaze back to Trump. Her voice stayed steady, but it carried real weight now. "Mr. President, you came after my family today, calling me low class and saying I have no values. But look at what we've seen in the last 30 minutes. We have an authentic birth certificate listing Ivanka as the mother. We have hospital admission records, financial traces, an internal family memo, medical notes, and sworn statements from 2 different insiders. All of it lines up. All of it tells the same story." She paused, letting the pile of evidence sink in for everyone watching. "Families are built on love," she said clearly, "some on lies and some on both. Today, America just saw which kind yours has been hiding." The words landed hard. A low murmur swept through the room, then grew into scattered applause from parts of the crowd. Reporters nodded, some writing her line down word for word. Trump wasn't done yet. He leaned forward, face still flushed with anger, and tried one last desperate attack. "You're a disgrace," he shouted, pointing at her again. "This is all made-up garbage from crooked Democrats. Nobody believes a word of it. You're finished, Crockett." He kept going, raising his voice louder, trying to drown her out with pure volume. But before he could finish his rant, the final piece dropped. A new document flashed across every screen in the room. The final confirmation. It was a notarized hospital discharge summary signed by the attending physician on the day of Barron's birth. In the mother field, it clearly stated Ivanka Marie Trump. Below it was a handwritten note from the same doctor. Patient requests privacy regarding maternal identity due to family arrangements. The signature and hospital seal matched everything that had come before. The room exploded. Reporters jumped up, shouting questions. "Mr. President, how do you explain the doctor's note? Is this the final proof?" Phones lit up like fireworks as the document spread instantly across the internet. Trump stared at the screen, his mouth open, no quick comeback left. His last attack had been completely shattered by his own family's records. Crockett didn't gloat. She simply stepped forward one more time, calm and in total control. "You started this by trying to humiliate me in front of the world," she said. "But all you did was open the door to the truth. The American people deserve leaders who are honest, not ones who hide behind loud words and fake stories. Integrity isn't about how loud you shout. It's about facing the facts, even when they're uncomfortable." The press room broke into loud applause. Some reporters stood and clapped. Cameras focused tightly on Crockett as she delivered her final message. Real leadership means owning your mistakes and telling the truth to the people who trust you. Today, the tables turned because facts still matter in this country. No amount of yelling or denial can change that. Trump stood there silent for the first time, his usual fire gone. He looked smaller under the bright lights, the weight of everything that had just come out pressing down on him. The narrative had flipped completely. What began as his public ambush had ended with Jasmine Crockett standing tall, calm, and completely in charge. The room kept cheering as reporters rushed forward with more questions. Crockett had taken every blow he threw at her and turned it into the biggest reckoning of his presidency so far. In the end, composure, preparation, and the truth had won the day.